But more importantly, let's discuss why they don't want to return all the other bronzes to the Oba's palace. The one with the key. That's my book for the year.
Thank you.
Full of a
Thank
lot
you.
of jokes. Thank you very much. Thank you. We're back. I have Chief Steve Dunstone. Chief, thank you. Next to Chief Steve, I have Joseph Igue, the son of the Enogie of Ehor. And I have Edwin Igue, a man that's also fought his way with the Honeyman Museum, and they've agreed to return 70 Benin bronzes back to Benin. Edwin, you will tell us your story, but I want to say something that differentiates you from Chief Steve Dunstone. Chief Dunstone have managed to give their artifacts directly to Oba Eredia. They made the decision to go. The bronzes from the Honeyman Museum, how many of them have left England, and where are they at the moment?
Well, before we go into details about that one,
Yes.
I think we need to credit Chief Dunstone. That's about 10 years ago.
Yes.
It had been euphoria, but it took traction at that time when himself and Mark Walker decided to return those artifacts to Benin.
Yeah.
And then we'll be talking about it, but it was just in the air, but nothing to show for it. So I think credits be given to
Please,
him.
I like to give him a. I like to give
Honestly,
him. We
please,
really love
please.
you. We really
That's a great thing that them. And then looking at those artifacts at the Bronze restaurant where we saw them, to me it was great. Having said that, with the Honeyman Museum, they agreed to give us 72,
Yeah.
which has all been signed for. 6 have left the shore, have left the museum. They are presently in Nigeria with Nigeria Monument and Commission. But with the case of the Steve Dunstone and Walker was that they went directly. It was presented directly to the Omonobane Dukwa Polopolo.
Yes.
By Edewa. Now, that's the difference.
Yes.
There. But with the case of Honeyman Museum, I thought it was granted for us to take this thing back. I cannot, in all honesty, because that was with the Charity Commission, which was granted. So we cannot take it back. They are huge. And most of these are delicate. And then at the moment, we have 66 in the museum, loaned to the museum. The document was signed November 28, 2022, by the then Professor Abakari, or the Director General of the Nigeria Museum and Monuments, Commission for Museum and Monuments, and the presence of Omo, Prince Aratise, Edewa, and other high chiefs from Benin. That's where we are at the moment.
Can I just ask a question?
Go for it.
When you was looking at the repatriation process, did the law, the English law that currently exists today, saying that museums cannot repatriate to other governments, did that ever come to surface or not?
Right. I think when we say, I would like to take it back to the British Museum, which was there by Act of Parliament.
Sorry, Mr. Ogiehor, we have to learn now. These are returned, these people have returned artifacts.
Yep.
We have not. So let us learn how to return artifacts.
So those ones are like the British Museum, they are Act of Parliament. And so before those things can be repatriated, the government have to, first of all, to change those laws.
Yeah.
And then they're like we have been asking for, because they were booty of slave trade and looting, and say we were demanded kind of apology and all this. So it will take a long time. But like with other museums that is not an act of parliament. Like for example, Honeyman Museum is not an act of parliament. They are controlled by the commission, the Charity Commission.
Right.
And so they could take decision based on the Charity Commission.
I see.
And that's to be approved by the Charity Commission.
I did write to or email the curator at the Honeyman Museum, offering my services. I did get a reply, but I didn't hear anything after.
Let me say, they also pride, because I followed Mr. Edwin to the Honeyman Museum at the end when they've maybe just to see what he has achieved. But they also pride themselves as the first British museum
Yeah.
to have
To return.
to return.
Yes.
You understand?
Yeah, quite right as well.
Artifacts, you know, to the Oba of
Yeah.
Benin. I watch them when they say that. But now, Steve, it's good to have all of you here. That man there, his dad is close to the palace too as well, and he's very traditional. If I describe him like that, so it's a balanced conversation. Steve, I had a conversation this week, not with you. I know some other Englishmen just besides Steve, and I said, look, we have a man who has written this book celebrating 10 years. I went with your book, the one with the key, because they have returned the artifacts directly to the Order of Benin. We have a situation where the British government, as it stands now, and other museums, they're building another museum in Edo State, you know, and they've decided there's a decision somewhere to not return the artifacts directly to from where they took them. So I went to an Englishman. I said, look, what is happening here? You're quite knowledgeable. And I will tell you what he said to me. He said, he saw our conversation and he said, you're right to say the bronzes should be returned to the spiritual home, which is the Oba's palace. He will reconcile the Benin. He said, the way some of the things he said to me, he said, the powers in the West are worried about enriching the kingdom, the Oba's kingdom. They're more interested in enriching the society nationally. They said, he said, the bronzes are so tied to a lot of things they do here, you know, a lot of things they do here, and they have very vested interest in the bronzes. And there's somewhere they don't want to enrich the Oba, they want to enrich the nation. And there's also a feeling deep down that if the Oba gets the bronzes, then he may not let them have it anymore. And so and there will be a tug of war trying to get the bronzes back from the Oba. So I don't know where you stay, but you know that the bronzes are not yet with the Oba.
I disagree with that gentleman completely. There is momentum now to get the bronzes back to Benin. I've seen the momentum, and it's happened in the last 10 years. But I'll tell you a fact that might be surprising. The three countries which have the most bronzes: Berlin, Museum of Berlin, Germany, the British Museum, and then Nigeria, who have the most bronzes. Now, I found that quite an extraordinary fact. When I looked further, these are bronzes that are in the Museum of Nigeria, that have been repatriated, been given back, held by the president. There's so many being held in Nigeria, but not being given to the Oba, or pending to hand over to the Oba. And that surprised me big time. But you also got Germany, who are leading the role here. They're doing a terrific job, and they've agreed 120 to go back to Nigeria. 21, I understand, has gone back. But they're sitting back on the other 100. But an agreement has been written between, or a contract has been established between the two governments, that all these bronzes belong to Benin, Nigeria. So the first 20 have gone back. And I imagine they're just sitting back watching what's going to happen, seeing what Nigeria themselves are doing. Are these bronzes getting back to the museum being built in Benin City? British Museum, although I still think there could be problems on the legal side on the British Museum, but I think institutions are watching what's happening in Nigeria. And if these bronzes are being kept away from Benin City, then it's going to stop the momentum. And that's what I'm worried about.
Okay.
We've had a positive 10 years of things are moving forward. It's great the Horniman Museum have returned. Now I understand Cambridge University, the Cockerel, was returned with a bust from Aberdeen, handed over by His Excellency President Buhari to the Oba. But I don't know if that's true. I've not seen any photographs of that.
No, I can confirm.
Yeah, that is true.
Good. I'm pleased to hear that, sir. Thank you.
No, but I don't think it has gotten to the Oba's palace. It has left this country.
The cock and
The
bust, the figurehead.
the boss and they've arrived.
At
They
the
have
Oba's
arrived.
palace.
They have arrived in the
They've arrived
palace.
at the
Yes,
palace. Okay.
yes.
And
Well, that's good news.
Are they still in the palace?
They have
Or
arrived in
they were shown, you
no,
know, that
they have arrived in
they
the
were like,
palace.
okay, I
Yeah.
was going to
There
come.
was a ceremony. There was a ceremony to welcome the artifact home.
Those
Yeah.
two, those two. Okay, so now we success story. Mr. Ogiehor, I called you here because we're going to talk about a few things, but now you're as an Edo person. I'm hearing this information just as you are. He's returned. He's worked very hard for some return. Chief Dunstone is here. You're a traditionalist. What does this mean to you? What do you want to happen? How much understanding do you now have, and where do you see the bronzes? This resolve.
Thank you, sir, for first of all for welcoming me here to be a part of this discussion.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you again for meeting you for the first time. AJ
Welcome.
Abuwaidan,
Pleased
I
to meet
really
you.
appreciate what you have done. And my brother here, Mr. Igue, all that he has been doing to make sure that these things are returned to the appropriate quarter. And thank you very much for taking it upon yourself to keep talking about it. I'll tell you, I'll say this. There was an interview I watched, and there was this word, I can't remember his name now because I wasn't thinking about it. He said, they said, why are the delays that the British Museum are not willing to return the artifact? He said because the Beninese have not made enough noise. So there's not enough noise for the British to think twice. He said if you want it to return, there have to be a lot of noise coming from the Benin citizen to say this thing must return. Then the British government will hear. As far as the Beninese are quiet, then the British will be quiet. So when there's a drum of noise that this thing must return, the British will wake up and think twice.
You heard that? You heard.
I think there's an element of truth in that. Um, there's an element of truth in that. But equally, I can put myself in the picture of either the President of Nigeria or His Royal Highness, the Oba. You don't want to be seen asking for something knowing you're going to get a door slammed in your face. Because then show up like a position of weakness, if you know what I mean. So there can be, well, historically, a reluctance to ask. I think a good PR person who's dedicated and tasked with doing just that to make the noise, because there's different ways of making noise. I thought about starting a campaign myself, but it opens up a huge.
Yeah, well, we'll join you. Yeah, so definitely. Because this is the noise we're talking about. Because
Yeah.
if we keep drumming the drum, it's not a drum of war, it's a drum of awareness. Okay?
But I want to ask. Wait. So, carry on.
I did have this idea of there's three people over here, three celebrities over here who've got Nigerian connections, and if you get celebrity involved, sometimes that gets momentum as well. One is Marcus Rashford, Manchester United footballer, an actor Idris Elba,
Yes.
with Nigerian background, and there's one other whose name escapes me at the moment. But I thought about contacting these three to just see if we can get them on board for a campaign
Okay.
to make the noise. You just
I like that. I like that. But Edwin, I was going to come to you now. We sitting here with Steve Dunstone. I think this is a very big conversation with regards to what we know about the artifact. They're building another museum in Benin, not the one the Oba asked for. Is that part of the reason why the bronzes are not in Benin now? Is it that the Oba and the governor had an
if I can just come in there, and perhaps you'll be able to help me. There was publicity that Germany, along with their bronzes, gave 140 million euros to the Oba specifically to build a museum. I don't know if that was true or not.
It didn't.
It's just what I read in the.
I read the same, but there's another museum being built in Benin that is by the government, and I want to establish, as we're talking, is it that's not the museum requested by the Oba to be in the palace. That might be one of the reasons why the artifacts have not come to Benin. That's one, is look, or because when you speak about loan agreements, I've been listening, 70 in the Honeyman Museum, 6, they can't have loan agreements without the people who own it signing a loaner. You understand the loan? How you say you give you six? You know you're watching what's happening with the 20, the other 100 is on loan. But as far as you're concerned, is there an agreement for this loan, or this is a scheme?
Well, what is it? It's time frame and it's time bound for the artifact to be returned back when it was signed. With the museum being built in Benin, that is by the government, being built by the government. It's not. There's no disagreement between the palace and the government.
There's none.
There's no disagreements because as far as I'm concerned,
Yeah.
he just said that now they know where those things are coming from. All my correspondence with the Honeyman Museum and Gardens were the Benin Royal Court. And even if you go to Germany now, the ones in Germany, they also correspond is Benin Royal Court. Whatever the governor is building to a house kind of artifact they have, that is, they can build hundreds of museums. That's the problem with me. But what my problem will be with the artifact that belong to the king be taken there. No, that is not the home. The spiritual home of those artifacts is where the king, say this is where it should be. The former head of state of Nigeria, President Muhammad Buhari, signed a gazette saying that every artifact, because Benin artifacts and bronzes, they are so unique. You can see it everywhere. And so they go straight to the Oba of Benin is the sole owner because he is in trust for all the Benin person. The Oba of Benin is the umbrella of every Benin man in this world. So everything that has to do with the artifact it is not because they are not artifacts. Before those artifacts were taken, it was taken from a place. That's what I told Honeyman Museum when we were discussing. Those things were kept in a place and they were removed from a place. And so it is not the museum. The things should go back to where it belongs to. But most of them, like the presiding said, when he was talking, he said most of these things, there's a chapter that have been ripped off from the Benin history because of that artifacts. So it is not the museum. Those artifacts can be returned. What Chief Justice and the Makoka brought, they are there in the museum. They are there in the palace. And the other ones they brought, they are there in the palace.
The one from
There's a place that is being stored in the palace. And because they are all coming in, the king in his wisdom, Prince Monobane Dukwa Akenzwa, the grandfather of the current king, made a pronouncement, provided a place where the place will be called, and he named it Benin Royal Museum. So whatever they are building now is the government. It is not the people, the Benin Royal Museum. So that should not be a decision to say because of the museum is not being built, they cannot return those artifacts. Those artifacts were in a place. There was a picture that is everywhere. And in the book of Makoka, when we were talking, it was explicitly said it was looted, and they all gathered the ivory, the bronzes, they were kept in the place.
Let me
So that's what I'm saying.
Wait, let me come to Mr. Ogiehor now. You know, I'm asking these questions because I think it's not a mystery, but we need to be clear. Mr. Ogiehor,
Yes, sir.
is these bronzes, if you follow our story, the bronzes that have reached the Oba's Palace, the Okuku from Jesus College, the one from Samak Walker, they have not been under the care of any particular museum. You know, what that other Englishman was telling me that so much has gone into the bronzes kept in the museums. You know, there is a small differential to say if it's kept under personal property, it's not been looked after the same way they look after the ones that's in the museum. You know, but for us as Benin people, especially me, because I've got nothing to do, I've got no claim to royalty. My father is not and stuff. Why do you think the bronzes have not reached Benin? You know, there's loans, there's some stock in Abuja, there's some stock here. Is it like Mr. McWalker said, that it's in Abuja, they're not reaching Benin? Is it as Edwin said, that, okay, there's a loan agreement, going on, they return some, or is it if they build the palace as the Oba has requested, will that make all the museums and everybody return their bronzes?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Here is my take in all this. Prior before 1897, nobody knew that those things were in that palace. Nobody knew about it, right? We never talk about the Benin Bronze because they were somewhere and they were never to be displayed.
Yes, they were not.
No,
displayed.
they are not antiquity to be displayed. These are every object. There is a story behind every object. And these objects are not to be seen by the public eyes because nobody knew they were there. After the invasion of 1897, that they brought everything out for people to see that these things were in the palace. Okay, now, having brought them out, people now knew that the does exist, and you scatter them all over the world. Now, we are asking you to return them. You are telling us a condition where which you are going to return them. Listen, these are stolen objects. This is not a football game or a return match. We come to your place, we play first leg, and you come to my place, we play second leg. No, it's not like that. This is a stolen object. No, you see, until we are honest with ourselves, we are not going anywhere.
Let me ask. Hold on.
Yes, sir.
I'm coming to you. They say spiritual, returning the bronzes to the Oba Palace will be spiritual, the spiritual home of the bronzes, and reconciliation for all Edo people for what was taken from us. They are comparing that, according to what the Englishman said to me, national interest, economic interest versus spiritual interest. Is that the line that they're taking to return the bronzes? You see? Let me ask.
I agree with everything
Is it
the gentleman just said there. Absolutely right.
they should return?
Right. You've got people in power in Nigeria that are looking for political gain, and they're using bronzes as a political pawn to try and bring in a bit more public opinion. And what they do, you might have state governors in a fight with the president. You might have the Oba in disagreements. There's so many people trying to win favour, and there needs to be an agreement across the board that the paramount importance is the Oba receiving these bronzes back. You cut away everything else, nothing exists except that. If you have all these people agree that that's the paramount importance, then things should go smoother. Just take away the president's political objectives, take away the finances involved, just get them back to the Oba in the simplest way as possible.
I'm gonna. Is that the reflection of most of the British people?
Can I just say that I want to know?
Sorry, let me just.
Right,
Because I don't see any normal British person saying they don't want the bronzes to go back to the Oba.
I think there's little interest in the British people where the bronzes are concerned. There's little. I'm very disappointed in saying this, but I had that from personal experience after coming back from a wonderful repatriation ceremony. I sent out press releases to all national newspapers. I got one phone call from the Sun, and that wasn't even followed up. So I don't think the British people have too much interest. However, the institutions do, and the governments do. But I just do believe with the power and clout of the export and oil that Nigeria has, all it takes is a president to start using some of these bronzes as a political pawn in negotiations.